You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
Hello, welcome to the Man Hug. This month's theme is comedy, and for that we have the perfect guest in Sam Avery. We also have a feature that we recorded in the week when we were invited to the Florrie men's walking group when they did their 24-hour walk challenge. We've had Tony from the Florrie on a previous episode, and he invited us to walk the first 4 hours, so we interviewed some of the guys who attended the group, so you can hear that a bit later on. But our special guest is a comedian, an author, and the artistic director of the Comedy Trust. It's not very often that we get a 2-for-1 guest who can talk about their own experience and promote a local service, but we have that today in Sam. So Sam, welcome to the Man Hug.
Thanks for having me. And it's funny when someone does an intro and you realise how many slashes you've got in your, what you do. Yeah, I think I'll wallpaper your house if you want. Just whatever. I just like working, basically.
So first off, just tell us a little bit about yourself then.
So my name's Sam. I've done stand-up now for 21 years. Did my first gig 2003, and I was really, really bad at it when I started. So for me, it's interesting with every comedian kind of comes to comedy for different reasons. I think I just loved comedy, and I think delving into it a bit further, I think perhaps I was so shy growing up. I feel like comedy felt like a good opportunity for me to be able to get my voice heard without being interrupted, because I felt like I didn't have a voice in school as much. Whereas me and my friends that I was close with, we always laughed together. So I feel like comedy was something I wanted to do because I felt like I had loads of ideas in my head, but I just didn't know how to get them out. Started doing stand-up 2003. And then just gradually got better and better and a bit more confident. And it took me a long time, really, to really kind of find... Comedians always talk about becoming themselves on stage. For me, it took about 5 years, I think, to just relax and be not this... I was a very aggressive version of myself when I used to go on stage because I was so nervous. And then started working with the Comedy Trust, this Liverpool-based charity, in 2006. Still there now. Directing the organisation now and sort of... using that to kind of, I suppose, ultimately we create happier and healthier people. That's kind of our ethos. But it's I always think I can add a lot from my experience of getting into comedy. What it gave for me, the confidence it gave me, the sort of the happiness it gave me ultimately that I still get from it. Not just from the act of doing it and writing it and being creative, but having a place to put all these weird thoughts and strange, not sometimes positive thoughts, but put them in a place that is positive and be able to then, have control over it and move on.
That's amazing. I mean, to me, that sounds like such a leap from being someone who, as you say, was naturally shy growing up to then going into comedy and stand-up. What did you do for that process to find your way in? Was you mentored, or was it just straight into the open mic scene?
Yeah, I'd been in a band. I joined a band when I was 14. Right. Yeah. And I couldn't play the guitar. So there was loads of people playing the guitar in school. And I think... like Nirvana were massive, and I loved Nirvana and loved, all the grunge stuff. And I thought, I want to join a band. I know I'll play bass guitar because nobody wants to play bass guitar. And
we're all looking at Dan here.
We're all looking at Dan. But I remember going into school the next day saying, I've got a bass guitar, can I join your band? And about 4 bands went, yeah. And I couldn't even play it. It's like going in goal, isn't it? No one wants to do it, but I did. So I joined this band, and I suppose that gave me a little bit of a boost in confidence, albeit standing at the back trying to look cool, but getting on stage and kind of getting used to people staring at you. Yeah. And then when I did stand up, it was a weird thing because from about the age of 15, I'd thought I want to do stand up, and it was only when I was 25 when I did my first gig. So I'd spent 10 years kind of sitting on the fence, umming and ahhing about it. And I'd say to anyone listening, if there's something that you're thinking about doing, don't wait 10 years, just have a go, because what's the worst that can happen? I mean, unless it's bungee jumping, obviously the worst that can happen is terrible. But if it's comedy, I mean, the worst thing that could have happened is people stare at me and didn't laugh, which happened anyway, because everyone's rubbish when they start. And I used to, New Year's Day, I'd make one New Year's resolution every year, which was to do stand-up that year. And then a year to go by and I hadn't done it. And it was only finally when I got drunk. I was at John Moores University. I got drunk and there was a Stars in Their Eyes competition. And someone said, will you get up and do Mick Jagger? And I was like, no. He said, go on, because I can't sing, but I could do this like Mick Jagger impression.
Yeah.
He was like, silly,
perfect
like
for a podcast.
it's perfect. Yeah, like
Great, what you just
like
did there.
basically for the listeners, it was
We've got
a
it on
chicken
video.
impression. Basically, it was very much like Stella Street. If you remember, if you
Yeah.
remember
Oh,
Mick
that
Jagger
was
on Stella
brilliant,
Street,
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like that, and I got incredibly drunk because it was the only way to get through. And the girl I live with, she lent me this pair of leopard skin leggings.
Nice.
Someone gave me a cucumber that I shoved down the front. I had this leather waistcoat and this bad wig, and I got up. There was 12 people in the competition, and they were all taking it seriously, and I came second.
Amazing.
And because I was just messing about, and I woke up the next day with this text on my phone saying, "Are you okay for tonight?" And I was like, "Is this a girl? Who's this? Have I chatted to someone? I can't remember." And it was someone who was running a comedy course at JMU, and they'd had a show. And it was in the Unity Theatre. Wow. And I'd agreed to do it. Now, I don't know how desperate they were for acts to think, we need him on the bill, because I was just an idiot. And it felt like, because I'd spent literally 10 years thinking I've got to do stand-up, I felt like fate had tapped me on the shoulder and said, this is your opportunity. So I agreed to do the gig, but I had no material whatsoever. So I just accepted the gig and then tried to write 10 minutes of material hungover without knowing how comedy works or punchlines work or the premise and how the setup is important, and didn't have any confidence. Got up, did 10 minutes, and I think because it was a student audience, they were dead nice with me, and I got away with it. And in my head I thought, I'm a comedian now, and of course I wasn't. I just done one gig, but that was a massive moment in my life to go, actually, I think I can do this. I'm not very good, but if I just do it enough, I'll get better at it and better at it. I know I'm funny off stage. Can I be funny on stage? That's the big leap. And it took me a while, but just kept plugging away, really.
That's amazing. What a way into a career, really, into something that you really love. Now, in the past on a Manhug, we've had loads of guests who have spoken about becoming a parent. But you've wrote a book, The Confessions of a Learner Parent, about your own journey into parenthood. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, that came about because my wife was pregnant and we found out we were having twins. And again, and this is what I talk about, comedy is just, it's second nature to me now, using comedy as this vehicle to place all my insecurities, all my doubts, all my challenges. It's this perfect platform to put those things on and then try and disassemble them, really. And with my wife getting pregnant with twins, I was like, well, how am I going to deal with that? And the first reaction is to just panic and worry about stuff. So I started writing material because that's kind of what I do. It's what I do. And I think, you don't just have to be a comedian to do that. I think a lot of us, especially in this city, we use humour. Maybe not comedy, because comedy, the way comedy makes people think of performance, but we use humour to kind of deal with difficult circumstances. And I started writing a blog on Facebook. And I used to compare this comedy club called Jongleurs, and it was horrible. It was just horrible. It was stag and hen parties. And my wife had just given birth, and I was doing this gig, and I was thinking, I don't want to be here. I want to be at home. So when I brought the first act on, instead of just standing there and watching, I went to the back of the room, I got my phone out, and I started writing a blog. And by the end of the night, I'd written this blog. I'd never written a blog before. And I'd just written it in my notes section of my phone. And then I just pushed it on me, published it on my Facebook page, and it sort of got a few likes and that. But I just kept doing it, and pretty much every day at the start, I was just writing a new blog about basically what went wrong today was the theme, basically, because as a parent, every single day you're being asked questions and you don't know the answers. You're being given challenges and you're failing, and that's great for comedy, isn't it? When everything goes well, your life's great, but when everything goes wrong, your life's funny. So I had so much material to work with, so just kept posting these blogs, and then eventually one got picked up by, first of all, the Lab Bible, and then this other post about 6 months later just went like super mega viral. And I got about 80,000 new followers on this Facebook page over, like literally in the space of like 3 days. And then a publisher got in touch saying, do you want to write a book? I was like, go ahead.
I'll have a go with that.
So it wasn't something I ever set out to do. It was just like, I thought, I've got to put these thoughts and feelings somewhere. I knew I couldn't get on stage at Jongleurs and tell these stag and hen do's about my emotions and how I was feeling about, looking at my kid and wondering if I'm enough for them and all of these deep, but I can turn that into a funny written thing. So that's what I did, and then wrote the book Confessions of a Learner Parent. So
amazing,
yeah.
brilliant. We all seen it at the weekend as well for Father's Day. You put a really good article out for the BBC as well.
Oh yeah,
it's brilliant.
I didn't know that was. I wrote that a couple of years ago. So my wife was just scrolling through the BBC website, and she went, "Why the bloody hell are you on the main page?" And I think the next day I went to check, it was still there, and Taylor Swift had replaced me. So fair enough.
There was one of the lines at the end where you'd put about your son, where you had asked him what he wanted to be. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, I think he was 2 at the time, and I said, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Because I used to ask them that all the time, and I don't anymore because they're older, 9 now, my twins. And if I ask them that now, it feels like a proper serious question. Yeah. When they're 2, it's hilarious because you're not really trying to carve out any careers advice. You're just thinking, what are you going to say today? Yeah. And I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, I want to be the moon. And I just thought, follow your dreams. Yeah. Follow your dreams.
Go for it.
You know, why poo-poo?
When Conleth sent over, and I've made a note of that as well.
Yeah.
The moon, that just made me giggle. But the other thing that made me giggle was the singing toys. The thing.
Yeah.
I still got in the tune. My eldest now is nearly 15. I still got the tune of this elephant in my head now. It's like, I'm your elephant. Honestly, he's got bed singing it. I was laughing my head off.
Oh, it's proper earworm. Yeah. It turns you into a very potentially violent person, doesn't it? One of these toys when the battery's about to run out and you sound like the Exorcist.
But isn't it if you're buying presents for other people, you go, I'm going to buy them really noisy. Kind of give it, and you laugh your head off as you leave the house.
Is that the reception you felt from the book? Because obviously it resonates with anyone who's sort of like had children, and obviously the article at the weekend, you're finding that people are saying, "Oh God, yeah, that was me," and I'm relating.
Yeah, I think what happened was it was very much the I don't want to use the word zeitgeist because that sounds a little bit grandiose, but the idea of the parent blogger was kind of, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years ago started to be a thing on social media, but it was all mums. Yeah. I think I was one of the first dads to kind of write honestly about how I was feeling. And it was really interesting, actually, because so many people, and it was mainly mums, and you can look at the analytics of the Facebook page, and the first couple of tours I did off the back of that page, it was 90% women, and it was so weird because I'd never set out to be the Daniel O'Donnell of comedy, but it was just all these women, and that sort of changed now. It's much more of a mix, which is probably a good thing, just because women's laughs don't have that baritone sound, so it sounds like you're not doing as well as you think you are. I need that, just to keep my confidence up. But what people often said, and this is something I just do sort of second nature, really. They said, thank you for being so honest, because I thought I was the only one. And I thought, wow, I didn't even realise I was being honest. And what I used to say back to them is, well, thanks for letting me know, because I thought I was the only one. Yeah. Which is why I thought it was funny, or why I thought it was interesting. And I think being honest about how you're feeling is a great way of, A, finding humour in situations, B, connecting with people, but also provoking this idea that we're not the only ones having these strange thoughts. You know, there's so much common ground that we're having, especially with parenthood, where these things like the toys that get on your nerves or the weird things that your kids say is it's very common.
Yeah, that's so true, and it's really nice to hear that as well. Because we've spoken in the past about like Everton in the community, for example. I've got a group for new dads, haven't they? And you know, it's an area we know has a huge impact on men's mental health. You know, the birth of your first child or other more children, in fact, and the stresses it puts on you and everything else. So it's great to hear that people have reached out to you and they've connected through that as well. It was
wonderful, and it was wonderful to see people, and more so when I did the first tour off the back of that, because that was then, it was funny because everything I'd written on Facebook was it was the written word. It was before videos were really promoted by the algorithm, so I just kind of used to write these long, well thought out, funny, snappy blogs. And then I'd start talking on stage, and all these mums would be going, "Oh, he's from Liverpool," and like they literally hadn't heard my voice; they just read what I'd written. But then I'd meet people after the gig, so I'd say, if anyone wants to say hello, I'll be in the lobby at the end, and I'd have people coming up to me, and people would say, like, "Oh, you got me through that, you saved me." And someone sent me this amazing thing about they were struggling with postnatal depression, and they sent me this big long thank you saying that the end of your first show, because I talked about this tantrum when both of my kids have, both losing their mind in this very public situation in a coffee shop. And what the way the show ended was I sort of went into the head of one of my kids, and I sort of vocalised what he was thinking. And she said that actually made her realise when next time her kid was throwing a wobbler, well, actually, to a 2-year-old, the fact that their banana's broken in half is it's like as bad as COVID made us anxious because it's the end of their small little world that they're existing in. So you trying to put the banana back together is never going to work, but they're disappointed by that. So that was really interesting. And just, not something I set out to do really, because ultimately, if I'm being honest, it was a very selfish reason that I started writing about it, which was my own survival. And I don't know what situation my head would be in now or then if I didn't have this place to put all those problems and challenges.
That's amazing. I remember reading one of your blogs as well around, been around COVID time, where you basically said, oh, thank you so much to everyone who's been reaching out to say, how my humour's getting them through this. I remember you were just so blown away by people, but, you're putting all of that content out during COVID, and it was getting people through some really bad times,
Yeah.
So what was that sort of like impact on yourself,
It was, again, probably not something that was doing... I never sort of set out to write something and think, oh, this is going to make everyone feel better. I've got to... It's amazing when that happens, but my first thought is this funny?
Yeah.
As a comic, the comic brain goes, is this funny? This is funny. Maybe adjacent to that, you've got, is this interesting? Because if it's interesting, it'll then become funny at some point. It's got to be interesting and or funny. And ultimately, I was doing it because lockdown was just hard for everyone. So I was just trying to find a place. Where's my creativity gone? There's no gigs. I didn't want to do Zoom gigs because they were the worst. And I did a couple of absolutely terrible gigs on Zoom where I was going, am I dying on me backside, or is the internet buffering?
Yeah.
And it was never the internet. It was not. I think once it was the internet, every other time it was
you
me.
should try teaching 400 students
like
that,
mate.
whatever, and you're cracking jokes, and it's just nothing.
Tumbleweed goes through Conleth.
Yeah,
It's
that's just my joke.
It's when you hit your best joke and 4 cameras go off. You're like, I'm losing them here. Losing them, it's like take me out, isn't it? But it is amazing, and it does give me this incredible sense of well-being to understand, because I think ultimately to feel good as an individual, it's not just about yourself, it's about can you enhance other people's experience and other people's day and other people's life on a small level, just having a little conversation, or on a bigger level by applying some kind of different coping mechanism that they can utilise. But ultimately, it's great to give, and it's great to connect, and it's great to feel that what you're putting into the world is having a positive effect on people. That's mind-blowing.
I think that's
really
beautiful. That was one of the big things. Obviously today we've chose the theme of comedy, and I wanted to see what it does for you. Making people laugh, and you just answered that so well with that. One of the things I think we always have to talk about whenever we're looking at comedy and comedians is it's a really hard industry. I've read so many autobiographies of comedians where living in and out of hotels, dark rooms, addictions round the corner. There's just so many things, because people don't realise that you're away from home a lot. You're going from hotel to dark room and things like that. What have you seen yourself as a comedian with other comedians? Is this something that needs targeting? Do we need to start looking after our comedians better and things?
Yeah, I mean, potentially there's always like the comedy industry always it seems to sit aside from the kind of wider entertainment industry, or I do a lot of gigs where in the backstage of the theatre there's all the kind of helplines for any theatre staff, whether you're performance or backstage. You can phone these numbers. There's not so much a comedy version of that, so you've kind of got to tap into what's already there. It is a really hard industry, and it's interesting that you say about the autobiographies, because interestingly, the ones who've written an autobiography are the ones who've succeeded in the end. There's a lot of stories, and probably more harrowing stories, and probably better stories actually, from the people who've just never made it. And I always think more people should write self-help books who've just failed at everything, because I think you can learn a lot from failure. But the way that sort of comedy works is that you've got to make up your mind that you want to do it. You've got to want to do it for the right reasons. And ultimately, I think the right reason is you've got to want to do comedy. It's not like I want to be on telly or I want to be a success, because that's such a transient, what is that? How does that look? I suppose you've got to love this sounds so cheesy. You've got to love the game. You've got to love the thrill of the chase, because you've got to love getting on stage in front of people and making them laugh. And whether that's in front of 20 people above a pub in Hull, or whether it's the Empire, you've got to love that experience. And some of the best gigs I've ever had are the gigs where you've driven for 4 hours, you get there, the PA's not very good, there's 6 people in, and you're thinking, well, this is pointless, and most people would go, this is pointless. And it does feel pointless, but then you go, well, I'm going to start the gig. And once you start the gig, you're like, actually, we can make this into something beautiful.
Yeah.
This gig's going to be like no other gig because there's 6 people here. 3 of them got in for free. 2 of them are German. Yeah. 1 of them's a dog. Let's have fun. You know, ultimately, that's not the one you want to record to release on your YouTube channel. Yeah. It's kind of, you've got to enjoy that process, but it is hard. And I think, you know, we can talk about the courses in a bit, but when people start doing stand-up, I don't think they understand how difficult the industry is. Not just the process of getting on stage and make people laugh, because that can be challenging. Yeah. But the actual idea of rejection, constant rejection, whether that's rejection from a promoter who doesn't want to book you, because there's 1,000 other acts and 500 of them are better and 300 of them have been on Mock the Week. So how are they going to book you? They're not yet. So you need to work harder. Or just the idea of kind of, you know, constantly sort of trying to get your way through this pack of people who are trying to get on stage. Yeah. But the people who really want to make it, they crack on because it doesn't seem like a challenge to them.
That's really interesting, yeah.
It's not for everyone.
No. The reason I brought it up, obviously we've done a lot of work with musicians as well, and there's some great charities out there now, thankfully. You know, Terry Hall was a great ambassador of Tonic, which is a charity for anyone who's in the music industry, whether you're, you know, the sound engineer to for selling the merch, whatever. And it's a really good charity. It's set up because they're the same as comedians, that night shift in a sense, and just living out of a van and everything else that goes with it as well. So the Comedy Trust then, so I mean, it's a nice way to link that in. You said before about that tagline, which I love, creating happier, healthier people through the use of laughter, humour and comedy. So they do amazing projects, don't they? So just tell us a little bit about that, because I'm sure people don't really know. Yeah,
so the charity's now, I think it's 22 years old now, so it's been around for a while, and I suppose where we sit now is we create happier and healthier people, and we use humour, and we do it in different ways. So we have comedy courses where we'll do a 6-week comedy course, or we might do a 1-hour comedy taster session. Or we might just use humour and laughter to talk about difficult subjects, or get people to open up or relax, or create a nice atmosphere. So you've got kind of taboo subjects that people can, you know, vocalise a little bit more freely. But we do all sorts of, I mean, we've worked with almost every demographic. So we do a lot of work in schools, building confidence, encouraging people to talk about how they're feeling, mental health, all that sort of thing. And rather than saying, how are you feeling today? It's like, right, what's getting on your nerves? Yeah. Go on, tell me what's getting on your nerves, because that's probably going to be a great springboard for some stand-up. Yeah. But also it's a great way, like I talked about in my own sort of experience, to take things out of your head and put them in a box. Not to ignore them, but to kind of like...
process them.
Yeah, process them, reframe them in your mind. We do a lot of work in the community. We do a lot of work we've done work with veterans, we've done work with mums, we've done work with dads, we've done work with older people, we've done work with people with dementia. We've just done a course with sex workers in Salford, so we're starting to, you know, spread our wings a little bit and work further afield. I do a lot of talks at kind of conferences, health conferences, and it's kind of stand-up. It's a stand-up set, 45-minute stand-up set, but it's about the Comedy Trust, and it's about laughter and humour, so it's kind of key messages but wrapped in a friendly, affable northern bald man telling jokes. So we do a lot of stuff around that, and then public speaking training for businesses, which we do a lot of, which again is tutored by myself generally. So it's all about what can you learn from a comedian that is useful for talking in front of an audience, and there's lots. Obviously, the heckle put downs I use might not be appropriate in the boardroom, but it depends what boardroom. Yeah. So, but we've worked with so many people, and it continues to kind of, I suppose it's that idea of what have you learned, and how can you give that back and pass that information on to someone else. And you know, we've got this wonderful bank of tutors that we use, and they give so much energy and enthusiasm, and got some great participants that we've worked with and we're kept in touch with, and it's just going from strength to strength at the moment.
Amazing. We did a whole manhug podcast around grief and bereavement. We had Alan Gibbons on, who tragically lost his son, and you know, when I seen on the Comedy Trust that you do a whole workshop for people who bereave, I was like, how does that work? That sounds incredible, you know. And so it's just tell us a little bit about those.
Well, that was called Laughter After Loss, and that was a really exciting project, because I knew that humour plays a vital role in grief. You know, the 5 stages of grief, they don't come in order. They come in whatever order they want on whatever day. But humour's a big part of how a lot of people deal with it. For some people, they don't. But for the people who do, it's an integral and vital part of the healing process. So we did this project, and it was so wonderful when we got people in the room. The challenge with that project was recruitment more than any other project we've ever done, because we had to basically shout out a window, have you just lost someone?
Yeah.
Fancy a laugh? And everyone's like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
It's dead hard to recruit for. With the school stuff, we go to a school, they get the kids. Community work, we do that, and it was much harder to target people who were recently bereaved, because I know that I lost my dad last year, and the last thing I wanted to do was go to a bereavement group. Even though I was bereaved and I was grieving and still am, I felt like and for some people it's finding the mechanism that works for you, isn't it? Yeah. Because everyone's going to have a different approach.
Definitely. That's what Alan said, and we learned a lot from that, didn't we, really, around, how unique and individual we all are, and we all process things, and what might work for someone else might not work for everyone else as well, and stuff. So how do people get involved in the Comedy Trust then? So if, there's things there, you mentioned, you got low confidence, or you're just wanting to work on certain skills and things, how would people get involved in it?
So the best way is probably through the website, so thecomedytrust.com. All the courses are listed on there, and you can get in touch with us through that website, and we're always up for a chat, so if anyone wants to get in touch, just head over there.
Amazing. I had a look on the website as well, and it's brilliant. All of the programs that you've got are just fantastic. I'd love to get involved in some of them myself. Really.
Yeah, should
it's
do.
Brilliant.
Should do.
Yeah.
Great content for the podcast, wouldn't it be?
Definitely. You should get down to Florrie. Some of the lads that did the walking group the other day. Funniest comedians I've ever met.
Well, some of the funniest people I've ever met don't do comedy.
Yeah.
And my mates are funnier than me. It's just I'm the one, obviously, with this deep, dark hole in my soul that needs to be filled by the approval of strangers for some reason. But and also the courses that we've done, we've had people who've done the course, done the show, and I've gone, you could do whatever you want with this. You are absolutely unbelievable. I've never seen a talent like you. You're going to do another gig, and they go, no, and they just walk off into the sunset. It's not for them. It's not for everyone. Wow. And I always, some people say, we've got to get him to do more gigs. No, let him do what he wants, because if it's you've got to choose to do this. But it's really valuable. So
in terms, I mean, you've mentioned there, about getting things out is really powerful for you in comedy, and venting and getting all of these things out, and you do that now in your social media as well, don't you? Always looking at sort of like the political landscape and the state of this country at the moment and everything else. Well, how sort of therapeutic are you finding that?
Oh, so therapeutic. Do you know my postman follows me on Instagram, and obviously my social media content has moved from parenting stuff, when my kids were young, to now it's just ranting about the state of the country and the world and the government. And again, that's because I have this anger about this issue or this challenge in my mind. What do I do? Well, I'll do a little video, and I do genuinely feel better when I've done it. And then it's the same thing with the parenting stuff. People say, I'm glad you said that, because I thought I was the only one who thought that. And I'm like, oh, it's happening again. But it's just, it's therapeutic to get it out off your chest. My postman, he said, oh, I love your stuff on Instagram. And I went, oh, thanks, mate. And he went, I thought you'd be a bit more aggressive. I was like, as I hope I've given the image of myself, I'm fairly relaxed, laid back person. But when I get angry about things, obviously those emotions come to the fore. But then, I press post, I shut my phone, and then I move on with my day. It's great. It's
brilliant. And I think, as you said, with the parenting on this, that it's just relatable with anyone who's feeling exactly the same. And I think, we get the same feelings that you do, and I think that's why it's so relatable. That's why I'm always running in and showing you, Ian. And he's going, I feel like that. Did you want to know something?
How cathartic it must be. Done. Sorted.
Because otherwise it loiters like a cloud. So if you can just chisel down an emotion and somehow expel it from your mind, it's not always easy, but if you do feel better. It's like some people play squash, some people get into fights. I make snappy 50-second Instagram videos, and then I'm good to go.
There you go, new therapy. Do you want to have some?
Yeah. Well, it's just a couple of things. Like, you just made me think of a couple of other people who have actually seen live and whatever, and just think of what they went through. Comedians. I probably won't pronounce the names correctly, whatever. But during COVID, you had all these people you wanted to go and see, but obviously things couldn't happen. And there was one, I remember going to see Louisa Amelin.
Oh, yeah.
Doing that. And her mum died. And I remember going to one of the gigs thinking, this is going to be brilliant. She's absolutely fantastic. Took my wife. And all she talked about was, she said, you can leave if you want to. You get your money back. I'm just going to tell you about my mum. And that's all she did. She talked about her mum, what she went through, her death, and things like this. Girl is just going through all this, and it's getting it off. Like, you know, just it was really important. Nobody left.
No.
People there, and there was interaction and things, I guess. I thought that was really good. And then, you know, two old fellas, whatever, in particular. Well, one, you know, sadly is RIP'd now, whatever. But, you know, Tony Slattery, he's doing the rounds again. I've always had a soft spot for him.
Oh, me too.
You know, and I know he's playing in the Perch. The Fort Perch, he's playing there in August, so I'm trying to get, not in contact with him, I'd more like to get in contact with his partner doing that, because don't know if you saw the documentary and things like him. It was so powerful,
very moving.
and it was all that addiction stuff that came through. As you said, like, you know, just about the side effects maybe a comedy of doing these things where you can actually lead into it. And the other one as well, who I did like, but I wouldn't have liked to have met him, Sean Hughes.
Oh, yeah.
Doing that, and, you know, I think he was just like, oh, comedy's not what it used to be, like, you know, because he couldn't get work, like, you know, because it was just exploded. Yeah. You know, the amount of comedians who actually came around. And I think it was very sad what actually happened with him, because he went through these periods like a comedian. Like with a lot of people within the arts, it's just like, I wouldn't say there's a lot of sitting around, but if you don't make use of your time, you aren't just sitting around, like, you know, and I know it's trying to observe and get material and things, I guess, whatever. But another thing as well I've also written down, I'm looking at setting up a new program and things, I guess, whenever, and just thought public health and palliative care, thought, like, you know, so got your name down there. For
Let's chat.
Yeah.
Find me on LinkedIn, please.
But the final thing I just want to say is just around, not really say, but, you know, kind of like ask as well, it is putting your neck on the line. It's you're actually putting your neck out there and actually thinking, am I the only one who thinks this? Yeah. And, you know, am I the only one who does this? Am I the one who actually only looks at my mum's little Woods catalogue, which just opens at the lingerie section? You know, that kind of thing. Which I know, Dan. But it is. The thing is, it's just that it is those kind of things. People go, oh, yeah, that's me as well. Like,
so it is. It is putting your neck on the line, and it is a little bit of a risk. And I've talked quite openly in this interview about when it works, and people go, oh no, I do that as well. But mate, there's so many times when I go, am I the only one who does this? And everyone goes, yes. And you're like, okay. And that's the process of comedy, right? Where you go, well, I won't say that out loud in public again, because apparently I'm the only one who does that in the back of Greg's when no one's looking. But Sean Hughes was one of my favourites growing up. Sean's show when I was like 14, 15. And he was one of the people who made me want to do stand-up. Him and Richard Pryor were the two that really inspired me. And my mum bought me a book called Sean's Book that came out, I don't know, I think I was a little bit older when I was about 18, 19 when I got it. And he'd just written, it was bits of poetry, bits of writing, a couple of jokes. Some of it was funny, some of it was just thought-provoking, but it was really interesting. But I think the main thing about that was he encouraged me to understand that you don't have to be like an alpha male macho man. Just be who you are. If that's you, that's great. But if that's not you, that's great as well. And be who you are and just follow your own path. And I think that was really empowering.
Especially for a Morrissey fan. And what was the other thing? And Elvis was a spider living in his house. Like, you know, so,
and Samuel Beckett on the phone, wasn't it? It was amazing.
Bye-bye.
But him, I mean, his tragic demise through alcoholism, and also Tony Slattery, who's had obviously loads of mental health issues. There is this constant question about, does comedy cause this, or does comedy attract this? And I feel like, from spending 21 years on the comedy circuit, knowing hundreds of comedians, being at the Edinburgh Fringe multiple times and seeing people just gradually dissolve over those 3.5 weeks because it's so tough, is that, like, it's a bit of both, really. I think it attracts people, and then it sort of amplifies those emotions. I do feel like there are comedians who've got their head together, and I feel like I'm one of the ones who can't. Dead lucky in that when I do have like down moments, they don't last too long. I've never had prolonged periods of that, thankfully, and I feel like maybe that's because I'm so open about things that I'm going through, and for me that works. And some people like to come up with premises or talk about things that aren't actually, you know, more fictional. For me, it's like, well, what's troubling me? What's getting on my nerves? How am I going to rant or rave or talk about this? Which is why it was parenting and now it's politics, and, you know, a bit of both in between. I talk about Everton a lot because I'm a big Everton fan, and they get on my nerves a lot as well. So, but yeah, love those two.
Yeah, and it is like, you know, it is those kind of things, like I said, you know, putting your neck on the line. But it's you know, you see the likes of some people well known to the public, like Stephen Fry, Spike Milligan, like, you know, all these people, you know, manic depression, pigs and troughs. I remember seeing one time, I think it was Stephen Fry and who's the other fellow works with him was in house, the doctor thing.
Hugh Laurie,
yeah. I couldn't think of it. Like, you know, they were actually interviewing John Cleese and they were actually going, has your mental health problems caused you? Would you be funny if it wasn't for your mental health issues? And, you know, John Cleese starts bursting out in tears and things, whatever. But, you know, I do agree with that because I have seen it with, you know, we listen to a lot of podcasts. Richard Herring's I'm a big fan of his, like, you know, and he hates Edinburgh.
Yeah,
you know, because it broke him. Like, you know, it broke so many people.
Edinburgh's kind of, you don't even need to go to Edinburgh to feel that way anymore. To feel broken, you can just stay at home because Edinburgh. The idea was you go there and you want to progress. You either want to hit the jackpot and get nominated for an award, or you just want to have good reviews, or you want to get an agent, or you want to get a TV show. Depends what your aims are.
Yeah.
But whatever your aims are, you get there, and all of a sudden, everyone's got a bigger poster than you. Everyone's getting better reviews than you because there's thousands of shows. So of course, you're going to compare yourself to the people who are doing the best. Whereas what you should probably do is compare yourself to the people who are doing even worse than you. Yeah. But you don't even need that anymore. You just need social media. And I had this idea ages ago for a new social media site that only shows you posts from people whose lives are worse than yours and call it Grateful. Yeah. And you just go, I'm having a terrible day. And you look at that and you go, oh, yeah, but at least I'm not them. Yeah. You know? Because otherwise you just see, because we only see the viral posts and the posts that have done well. And Edinburgh's the same. You'd see the biggest posters and the biggest reviews. Yeah. And then you feel like insufficient. You don't feel like you're enough.
I think that Baby Reindeer really highlighted that as well. For anyone who's seen it with the lad, and you felt so sorry for him, you know, playing in this pub, you know, day in, day out, and no one's turning up, or they're putting the football on over them and stuff like that. And it's like, God, why would anyone put themselves through that, you know?
Yeah, we've all been there. And people were saying, was that what the Fringe is like? I was like, well, it's not all like that, but there are elements of that. You know?
At the end of that, though, he starts talking about his own experiences, and that's what gets him.
Yeah. I think one of the best things I read about the Edinburgh was a comedian. He looked in the garden, unbelievable, got 5 stars. Whenever somebody pointed out, no, it's 0 stars. You know, that's it. He's got 5 stars, but they haven't been coloured in. They weren't coloured in. Like, you know. But that's the other thing. It's around maybe turning those negative things into something like that comedian Joel. I don't know. Anyway, the one who was he was caught doing. I know I'm getting dementia. He was caught one of these sex torsion things. So basically, he exposed himself online and things like this. Whatever. A lot of people commit suicide over it. Whatever. He made a comedy routine out of it, and apparently it was bloody brilliant. Yeah. Joel Dommett.
I think it helped that he was very well hung, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair.
Because then it was like, yeah, look at this, sorry. Whereas I'd be like, hide that video right now. It was a cold day and I don't want anyone to see it. But there's things like that, and also I think you're on your own, unless you're in a comedy duo, you're on your own, and that's the one thing I miss about being in a band, that sharing of success where you go, that was us, we did that together, and you feel connected, but also sharing like challenges or failures. But then of course the great thing about being on your own is you don't have to compromise on anything. You just say what you want, and if it's funny you keep it in. Basically you don't have to have a band meeting.
And for future gigs, I've noticed you're playing Shenanigans next door, and you've got some other things lined up.
I've just finished me last tour finished in February, so my next tour doesn't start till next autumn. Wow. Okay. So I'm still doing the comedy circuit, but I'm not actually. I haven't started writing the next show, so I'm doing Hot Water tonight and doing Shenanigans next week. Just basically new material nights where I can get a piece of paper with all my ideas on and go, that thing I talked about before, am I the only one who thinks that? And they either say yes or no, and depending on which way it goes, I'll keep it in. I don't even know what the next show is going to be called. I haven't got a title yet, so I'm just trying to get a bit of material like moving so I can kind of figure out the theme.
Brilliant. Well, we'll have to come along and give you some support. So before you go, final plug for the Comedy Trust then?
Yeah, thecomedytrust.com, or find us on all social media channels as well.
Amazing.
And you can find all my social media channels. Sam Avery Comedy. There's all the stuff on there as well.
Sam Avery Comedy. So get on there and follow it. I think we'll have to have you back because I think there's just so many things we just need to delve into. Great. And it's been amazing to have you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. It's great to. It's just stuff like this is really important. And you talked about the impact before. The impact this will be having on listeners. Yeah. I don't mean my episodes, by the way. I mean the podcast as a whole. Basically, what I've just said. Just stuff like this is really important because it makes people understand that it's not. This is it's a common thing, isn't it? Common themes.
Definitely, and that's all we're trying to do on the Man Hug, is just to normalise the conversation with men and, you know, everyone's experience. We're hoping, you know, from the likes of you today, you know, coming in and someone who was shy and has gone into comedy, that's going to open a lot of ears. A lot of people go, God, well, if he can do it, I might give it a try myself, or you know, or even just being shy about talking about something that might actually encourage someone to do that. And you know, you normalising it into your own experience of what you've done and how your life's gone. It's a really powerful thing. So can't thank you enough for coming on and telling your story. Amazing. Thanks for coming, Sam.
Thank you all. Yeah, great.
You're listening to the Men's Mental Health Podcast, The Man Hug.
So this month's theme is comedy, so we thought as the hosts we'd have a little natter on this subject. I'll start with a bit of brain health, because it'd be nice to see what laughter does to the brain and our systems. So in one study, researchers used PET scans to study participants' brains after they watched laughter-inducing comedy clips with close friends for 30 minutes. The Journal of Neuroscience published a study that found social laughter increased pleasurable sensations and triggered endogenous opioid releases in the brain. Research also found that the participants had elevated pain thresholds after watching laughter-inducing comedy. So basically, it's a natural anaesthetic as well. In other words, laughter increases the brain's production of endorphins. And endorphins are those ones we always talk about, our feel-good chemicals that relieve pain and reduce stress. More good news about getting the giggles. Laughter affects your stress response, your heart rate and your blood pressure, which can help you feel relaxed. Endorphins also contribute to feeling calm and happy, improving your mood and reducing anxiety. A recent study in Japan found that more laughter in individual and social settings was associated with a reduced risk of dementia. We know that loneliness and social isolation may increase the risks of developing dementia, so that being with people, having a laugh, really is the medicine that we want to prescribe. For me personally, laughter and comedy have always been my fondest family memories when I look back. Christmases with the family all watching Tommy Cooper or Morecambe and Wise, watching grown men in my family just curl up on the floor in fits of absolute laughter. Or my older brother sneaking me into his room so we could listen to Richard Pryor on a record, or watch VHS of Bill Hicks or The Young Ones or Bottom after everyone had gone to bed on a school night. For me and my brother, it was a universal language. The catchphrases that we had, the lines we would throw at each other on a daily basis, making us howl with laughter, knowing our mum didn't have a clue what we were on about, especially when Alan Partridge first aired on our screens. So yeah, laughter, it's a very underrated, magical thing. Conleth?
Well, you know, the idea of, as you just said there, laughter is the best medicine. It's seen as part of folk psychology, but, you know, there is obviously evidence within it. Over years, this idea has actually been subject to considerable academic endeavour to actually look into it. But we've got to think of as well, laughter is meaningfully distinguished from humour. Laughter is a physical response and not exclusively elicited through humour, and non-human animals laugh for reasons that are very different to the perception of humour. Although, like I said, non-human laughter is an evolutionary perspective, may be very distinct from human laughter, which derives from the primate play. So we've got to think of those things as well. And whenever you actually look at the interventions like laughter yoga, and I always think of laughter yoga, I think of our Dan. There was one year he did it. He just got us all to laugh, and you know, it was so therapeutic. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I think that year I said that was one of the best times I've felt, like, you know, within it. And it's around these things about that voluntary laughter, to those, as we just seen with Sam, like, you know, to looking at stand-up comedy workshops where laughter is elicited in the actual response. However, humour can actually be framed as a resource to increase resilience and promote well-being by allowing cognitive reappraisal and negative events we'd actually have in life. Alexis Sale, I remember one time he actually did a program, did a little clip which I've actually used in sessions before, about people who are terminally ill, and it's all about having a laugh and things like that, and what they actually do to actually help. And is it a kind of sticking your head in the sand, you know, coping mechanism? You know, don't get me wrong, sticking your head in the sand is a brilliant coping mechanism, but it does actually catch up, whatever. So, but it's not for me to actually say, oh no, this is wrong, that's wrong. It is down to the actual individual. Some of the studies I've got, this is one of the beauties I've got, some of the studies I've actually got here from are worldwide, from America, Australia, Iran, China, Germany. And it just started me thinking as well about not the idea of laughter that is universal, but how we can make one situation maybe laughable across, so that everybody actually understands it. And through that is through actions, through things that we actually do. And the classic ones we got there, Charlie Chaplin, Mr. Bean, and to me the best of them all, Buster Keaton. How this can be watched worldwide and people get it. People are actually going, this is fantastic. So it's this commonality we actually have across everybody across the world. Calf et al. Back in 2023 review, collated actually summarised some of the studies actually find the impact, as Dean just said, about humour therapy. So the likes of medical clowns, laughter therapy, all these kind of things are actually really good for actually helping with depression, anxiety, looking at those things as well. Short-term benefits, it can actually stimulate your organs. Laughter actually will actually takes you to breathe in oxygen-rich air, stimulates the heart and lungs muscles, and as Dean actually said, reduces endorphins, activates release stress response, soothes tension, and the long-term effects as well, with some of we've actually touched on. It can actually improve your immune system, can actually relieve pain, increase personal satisfaction, improve mood as well. So what my suggestion is really about get laughter, get humour into your book, try and improve, get it on your horizon. It's that kind of thing of, if you laugh, the world laughs with you. And it's that kind of thing, not laughing at you. And those are the distinctions we actually need to make, actually just thinking, unfortunate incidents happen and people laugh at it and you've been framed and things like this, whatever. But, is that funny? Is it a different sense of humour? But I'm just going to go back to our Dan, just with the laughter yoga. We only did one bit here for about 2-3 minutes, and it was brilliant. It was really, really good. So cheers for that.
Do you want to do it again, or should we get at the end? It seemed to float your boat. Let's nearly as much as a little
I think Conleth does it every time he watches Leeds United, to be honest.
But, I actually do. I just cry.
Cry with laughter.
Ian.
I like that in terms of the benefits of laughter, and it's what we're trying to address is why we laugh, what makes us laugh, and who makes us laugh. And I guess for me, I really like Gavin Francis, who's a GP and doctor and writes, and he had a book in 2019, Shapeshifters, and he talks about, he says laughter is about some eminency in ourselves and that bodily function. And he says there's two kinds of laughter. There's the laughter that floods out in response to something that's funny, and the kind of laugh that we put into a conversation which eases that sort of social interaction. And as Dean sort of quite rightly or has looked into in terms of that physiological health, it both help with health in terms of reporting less pain, anxiety, depression, physiologically dilates blood vessels, reduces heart disease, gives a boost to the immune system, all of those things. Why we laugh, other than a physical process, is a more difficult factor, I think, to answer. I know Henry Bergeson on laughter and about the meaning of the comic said there's two worlds, and as humans we live in those worlds. One is the physical, where we experience through all the different senses, and then there's the social world, which is full of meanings, of cultures and hierarchies. And something that Sam, when he was talking about there, is that where humour can actually help navigate through those, through humour to navigate through some of those misunderstandings and those hierarchies. However, Henry Bergeson actually said that we don't laugh alone. And a lot of, when they've looked at laughter, when they've looked at children, I think it was Darwin looked at it with children, and kids do laugh, and they do laugh alone. But of course, we're something like 30 times more likely to laugh when we're with others, which is why you've only got to think of TV canned laughter, is where if you're watching it on your own or with other people, you're more likely to laugh as a consequence. And as Conleth has said there about that, laughter in terms of that general thing, it's 30 times more likely to laugh when others are. So that's where that comes in. So laughter helps reconcile us to the fact, Bergeson says that about shifting social sands, and he actually says it's the fact it reconciles us as changing social animals in a restless world. It allows us to smooth the roughness of dynamic social exchange. It's cathartic of social tensions, and its work is to reinforce connections between individuals, which I quite like that as a definition. Juliet Burton, actually, who does podcasts and tweets on mental health, and as a mental health practitioner, she says again about this, what's socially acceptable about and what's socially unacceptable, and about how comedy is about that build-up of tension and relief, and it's that evolutionary. It's about speaking, and laughter comes from that release from all that tension. And she goes on and, you know, making those allusions to early man making jokes, being chased by a saber-toothed tiger that then slips or goes down a hole that's been dug, and relief really of those tensions of being chased, and then the social release and laughter that comes from following a close escape. And what she says, it's about a self-soothing, it's about resetting ourselves to internally massage ourselves with the gentle reverberation of our diaphragm moving, which is obviously from laughter. And I think I like that as a sort of self-soothe, and that idea of of resetting ourselves. I think it is actually true. She also said, Juliet Burton, that humour is very personal, but she also made the distinction, I think, in terms of with mental health, because she was a practitioner, about and she had suggestions about joking about mental health. And what she says is that is the joke from an informed perspective? Is the joker, the person making a joke, are they held accountable to what they say? And I think you've only got to think of Jimmy Carr's comments in 2022, and he made the comments, racist comments really, about the Roma and traveller community, about the Holocaust jokes. And I guess he would always say he's just pushing those sort of boundaries in terms of what's socially acceptable, what's unacceptable. But for me, what she says is right, in terms of it's about whether you're, who is the target or the butt of your jokes, and often there is a butt of the joke. So who is that, and what is it, and is the joke punching up, or is it punching down? Punching up in terms of taking down a higher power. And the example she talks about, you only got to think of Hitler, and the famous Hitler only had one ball. And I think it was that idea that he was this dictator, a scary, frightening person. You think of the absolute atrocities that were committed, but also how frightening that must have been. It's a way of taking down, in the same way Sam Avery does, I think, in terms of like Nigel Farage, about that frog-faced Farage. He says he doesn't usually like to be, personal, but again, it helps take down, I think, and that's punching above, which I think absolutely is the right thing. In terms of punching down, then it's actually, for me, that's about belittling. This is what we talk about. Punching down is actually hurting people, and actually people are already downtrodden or the underdogs. And I think that, for me, that does need to be challenged in terms of that. So I think in terms of comedians, then Sam actually mentioned about Ken Dodd, and I think if you come to Liverpool, then I think you've got to, straight away, you're met by him. Certainly if you come on the train via Lime Street, then he's his statue is there on the platform with his tickling stick. And that's not a euphemism, but it's there. He's met on the platform. And again, he's someone, for me, I think, in terms of Liverpool, I mean, he was a fan of Thatcher. He was certainly a Tory. But as Sam said, he's right in that he's actually very funny. One of my favourite jokes by Ken Dodd is that, because he was very good, he used to do that, the TPM, wasn't it? The titters per minute. And I think he was always challenging in terms of bringing in new material. And the one I always remember is that, he says, what a great day, what a fine day it is. He says, throwing a bucket of whitewash over a seagull, and they're going, there, how'd you like it? And he would just do these one-off lines and stuff like that would just make you crease. And I think there's definitely an art for that. The other person that he's there on the platform with is Bessie Braddock, who was seen as battling Bessie, who was the person that was a socialist MP, a feisty fighter for Liverpool, was an MP that they would join on the train down to London and speak for, the actual. It is about that strange meeting, is about the differences that they had and yet still made that connection. So I always think Ken Dodd, I think, is an interesting person, and is always one of those people that is looking in terms of what makes a joke funny, what is it that we're actually trying to strive for. Looked at people like Freud, looked at what, in his book about Sweet Madness, a study of humour. He had hundreds of books and talked about all those things. So I think he's sort of interesting from that. Of course, he also makes a joke over that, is, the problem with Freud, he never had to play the Glasgow Empire on a Saturday night, particularly after both Rangers and Celtic had lost. So he makes a joke of that, and I think something that Sam alluded to, and I just think I think that's really interesting. Again, that connection in terms of comedians being the life and soul of the party, and he's touched on, Sam has, on the discussion in terms of the difficulty about rejection as a comic, and he explains that. But again, that link in terms of comedy and people's attraction to it, I think it is really interesting, because if you spoke to people in the public, what they're frightened over, most people after Spiders would be speaking in public. So actually getting up there is, facing your great fear of rejection and of speaking in the public. So I think there is something that attracts people, which is found in some of the trials. And when they've looked at that link about that creativity and associated with madness, that's what they found, that comedians have scored significantly higher norms on all the scales in terms of this inverted anhedonia and impulsiveness, and that anhedonia is that inability to feel any pleasure, which is what they say. And I think some great comedians, I think you can see, actually suffer from and more likely to experience mental illness, that idea of the tears of a clown, as well as the things about, the travel, working long hours, facing rejection, criticism on a regular basis, all leads to sort of high stress and anxiety in terms of that. And I think, we've mentioned some comedians. I think Stephen Fry, who's written a book about his struggles with bipolar disorder, and he actually says that humour, like love, can survive all things. And I think the fact that he's still striving and talking about that, I think it is really important. I think probably one of the greatest, I think, for someone I saw in Morecambe Mindy, things like Good Morning Vietnam, favourite films, Dead Poets Society, it really is Robin Williams. And I think, he was very high impact, wasn't he, in terms of his intensity of his performance. It was very deadpan humour, as well as being just off the cuff in terms of that intensity. But of course, he was found in, it's 10 years ago now, isn't it, or approaching 10 years, that he was found dead by suicide, and it was later came out that he'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and also that Lewy body dementia, which is that progressive dementia often with people found with Parkinson's disease. And I think Robin's Wish, which I definitely recommend to watch, is that his surviving partner talks about trying to address and understand that why Robin Williams committed suicide, and understand the pain he felt about his talents and faculties slipping away, how in facing that absolutely terrifying reality, giving some compassion really to that person that he was and his underpinning reasons. And one of the things that I think Robin Williams always said is about, one of the weapons we have is comedy, and is that, that spark that's really, really important. The last thing I'd really want to address is that one of my favourite films, it may be controversial for probably Dean, is The Joker by the 2019 film, which I think is just an astonishing film. But I know it's controversial in its portrayal in terms of mental health, and I'm just conscious of, it's almost stereotypical in some ways, but I just think it's just a fascinating film in terms of that. Pursuing, I think, in terms of mental health, in terms of, Joking Phoenix, his name almost, the Joker is almost, said within that. It's about this socially inept clown for hire Arthur Fleck and how he is attracted to stand-up, trying to be a stand-up comedian, and it's then the effects of that and taking on this, backstory of this comic character of the Joker. And I think it has, starring Robert De Niro as well as part of it, as Murray Franklin, who abuses his position really and actually gets him to, again, this is that punching down, actually gets him and invites him in as someone who's seen as not funny as a comedian, invites him into the show. And there's just this brilliant line in it that he's saying, how about another joke, Murray? How about another joke? No, I think we've had enough of your jokes, is the final thing that he says. What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? And Murray Franklin at this point is calling the police, get the police, and then Arthur Fleck, Joking Phoenix, says that, I'll tell you what you get what you fucking deserve, and he shoots him and kills him. And I know that bit's controversial, but it's that, for me, it's that whole thing, how society can make you ill, depressed, and mentally ill, I think, which is so powerful. And he says, I've got nothing left to lose. Nothing else can hurt me. My life is nothing but comedy. And for me, that's what's really powerful within that in terms of mental health. It is complex. Mental health is complex, multifaceted, and it's something that we've tried to do on the Manhug is to normalise that experience. And I think it's true from what we've talked about that comedians and all individuals need to prioritise their mental health and seek help as required. I think finally, laughter is the best medicine unless you have diarrhoea.
Wow. I think you guys have covered everything, so there's not really much else to say. I mean, every single thing I was going to talk about has been talked about. I was thinking, right, favourite comedian, Robin Williams. I'll talk about, oh, fucking hell. But as always, Ian articulates himself so beautifully. I'd rather it out of his mouth than mine. So thank you, Ian. Has anybody heard the song about the pork sausage?
Oh, not this one yet.
It's a banger. See, I'll start with that. And that's me done. Thanks. See you next time.
You can only get better now.
Yeah. So kind of just picking up obviously on what Sam's talked about already, and with regards to the Comedy Trust. So doing a little bit of reading around, and an article in The Guardian from a few years ago now. Another comedian called Nick McGrath, or McGrath, however you say it. What's the right way of saying it? Well, how would you say it, Conleth?
I say McGrath.
McGrath. Yeah. Okay.
There you go.
Just going to our specialist. And the use of stand-up to help conquer anxiety and depression. So getting, using that stage to speak publicly about your mental health problems, and using that to form your stand-up. We're all university lecturers, me not for much longer. Hey, but we've all stood in front of classes of students, and perhaps been talking about a subject that's difficult for our students to comprehend. So I think we would all agree that bringing in humour as a form of getting across our message is the way that we probably all do that, I suppose, to a certain degree. And from a personal perspective, obviously, when I do go down my little rabbit warrens and may talk about my own personal experiences with regards to mental health, I will obviously bring in an element of humour there as well. And for me, it's all about the normalise, and that's what the podcast is about, isn't it? But yeah, so with regards to in our professional sort of world, the use of humour is very important. You've talked obviously a lot about Ian, I'm pointing at, sorry, talked a lot about the history of humour, and you're saying about it being a primal thing. And you think about it, it's throughout the whole of history, isn't it, that we, in medieval times we had a court jester, and then Shakespeare would write his plays with humour. So the one that springs to mind is A Midsummer Night's Dream, with the goings-on of Bottom. And I think that the reason why humour is plotted throughout the whole of history is because it does give us that togetherness and sense of social being, if you like. And I know I always come back to this, and but because we don't socialise in the same way as we used to, particularly from my childhood, we don't see our friends perhaps as frequently as we would have done 20, 30 years ago. I can't remember what I was saying. I've just had a senior moment. So insomnia's, a serious issue, isn't it? But the good news is there's only 3 more sleeps till Christmas. I will say, if you listen to this, we're in June. If you listen to this in December, then that joke doesn't work. And evidently it doesn't work in June either. So where was I up to? What was I saying? So I've got to say, for the purposes of my section, that we have just been interrupted by fire alarms, so I've completely lost my train of thought. Not that I actually had a train of thought in the first place. So I was talking about Shakespeare, wasn't I? And I was talking about togetherness. That was it. And so we don't have that social togetherness where we'd perhaps go down the Working Men's Club. I should do advertising for Working Men's Club, because I mention it every single podcast, don't I? But we have social media, and we all know that the social media can be toxic, and we don't have those same sorts of relationships. And what can happen is, when you're using humour and it's not in the spoken word, it's in the written word, is sometimes things can be misconceived and people can be upset, but then they won't verbalise it because we're communicating with the use of humour through a non-verbal domain. So I've actually been in situations where I've been in perhaps a WhatsApp group or seen a post on Facebook, and I've been offended or been upset. And I've also been in situations where I've had friends, really good friends, who have left Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, because something might have been said that's upset them, or they don't feel that their messages are being responded to as they used to be. And they feel that, so-and-so doesn't think I'm funny, or so-and-so doesn't want to respond to my message anymore. And so I do think that from that perspective, humour can nowadays can be quite challenging to recognise that I've lost my train of thought again. Where's he going? I'm having a mare. So Ian's just gone for a moment somewhere. So we just need to be aware, don't we? If we're using humour as a form of communication, then nowadays it's a lot more difficult if we're not actually seeing each other and we're using the forms of social media that we can actually inadvertently offend and can cause and can cause breakdowns in relationships. So in friendships. So yeah, I was going to use my joke to finish with, but instead I've already said it because I had to use my joke when we came back from the fire alarm. So what I will finish with is we talked a little bit about the using humour in grief. So I just wanted to mention one last thing about when my father passed away about 6 years ago, and when we were at his funeral, he was being cremated. And as the curtains closed on his coffin, the tune of Road to Hell by Chris Rea starts blaring out in the crematorium, which I found highly hilarious, and I'd like to think my dad would have probably found it quite funny as well. But obviously my dad's auntie wasn't at the same stage of grief, because as she was walking out, she mumbled under her breath to my wife, "That's a very strange choice of song to be playing at a funeral," which I only found out the other day when my wife actually told me. Comedy, humour, unbelievable resource to help people with their mental health. But just be aware that in this modern age of the unspoken humour, sometimes we could perhaps inadvertently upset people. So until next time.
All I
Brilliant.
can say, if you're getting commission from Workmen's Club, I need commission from Little Woods. Okay.
And on that note, so me and Ian have been sat here in our Florrie t-shirts, which we God save the Florrie t-shirts, following our walking group. So next up, we joined the lads on the Florrie Men's Walking Group 24-hour walk, and here's how it went. So it's the 13th of June, and part of Men's Health Month, the Florrie Men's Walking Group are doing a 24-hour walk. They did it last year. We've had Tony and Timo of the Florrie as past guests on the Man Hug, and they spoke about how they were creating a 24-hour walk to provide funds and provision for their amazing group that they run. So today they're doing it again for the second year, and they've invited us along. So me, Ian and Conleth are really looking forward to doing the first 4 hours of their 24-hour walk with the men and finding out a little bit about what it means to a lot of the guys who attend the walk, and obviously why Tony's doing it as well. So come along with us for this short trip that we're going to do as part of their 24-hour walk. Okay, so we're here now with Tony Caveney, who runs the Florrie Men's Walking Group, and today they are going to embark on a 24-hour walk. They did it last year. It was a great success. So Tony, tell us a little bit about why you're doing the walk and what it all means to yourselves at the Florrie.
Well, this being our second, it's turned into an annual thing this year. We done it last year, and the motto's walk and talk, you know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone likes to walk, why not talk and what have you. So talking isn't just about, you know, like what you had for your tea last night, what the fuzz is. We like to spread the message as well, talk about like getting the message out there and what, like, you know, end this stigma that we don't talk, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And fellas don't get things off the chest enough when really they want a platform to do that, or they want to walk to do that, or they want, you know, to find something to do. They do want to do it. But last year it was on World Mental Health Day. Yeah. Today there's a week of it, Mental Health Week. So we planned it this year because the weather was atrocious last year, and so we said, why not do it on the Thursday again, so the Friday morning start it. And because last year was a success, but there were certain times when we had, like, you know, still good numbers, but, you know, like the 2 o'clock in the morning till 6, like. But this year it seems everyone's jumped in, so we invited yourselves along. We've invited a few other Anfield Rap, Transalpino. We've got Sean Humphreys in Edinburgh, who's doing a similar thing. Wow. Who's like, he jumps onto the hashtag Never Alone. He's doing good things up there. And Kick It House are coming down, who do good things for the kids who can't afford football kits. So we've got invited a few others if they'd like to involve themselves, and everyone's just took to it. So well, at the minute I've had about over 100 fellas over each walk, and it's a play on words. You know, it is a 24-hour walk. We can't expect some of the fellas are elderly, but we do it in 4 hour stints. You pick a slot. Yeah. You come and do your 10 hours, your like 10 miles.
Like a relay, isn't it?
It's a relay,
yeah,
it's a relay,
amazing. Yeah, so obviously it was a great success last year, and your walking group is going from strength to strength. Why do you think it's important to be able to do something like a 24-hour one? How will it help the Florrie, do you think?
Well, like I say, awareness is everything, and it comes in many forms, like whether we pop pamphlets out, whether we spread the word, social media, you know, can be, like we said in the past, it can be an horrible thing. Yeah. But there is a good avenue, there's a good platform out there on social media if like, you select the right people. So like, it's been getting out. I think it's important for fellas to come and have a go, because it's this everyday stuff. Like, it doesn't have to be like, you know, we have fellas, and we have like counselling on for fellas who have got serious, you know, more deep-rooted problems, which we can't as professionals. We're not professional, so we put them. But there's fellas who just want to get out the house on everyday things. It's a mix, and when you see them join together, you know, like, and just talk, like, you've got an elderly fellas with kids, and it's like, I'm not saying you get fellas who are like from different religions and different backgrounds who are talking, you know what I mean? So it comes in, I wouldn't say it mainly is like a well-being mental health walk, but fellas come for different things, and if it can help them in any way and come out and talk, and then, you know, I know it's like cliches like we said, but they keep in touch, they see each other all the time, they see each other in town, and they'll stop in town, because the city's like a village anyway, do you know what I mean? And then they'll see each other and they'll talk, you go on the walk, and so it's far-reaching like that on that side of it as well. So I think the friendship side of it is very good for me, because I believe in like community and what have you. But it's also helping them put a smile on the face, you know what I mean? Amazing.
I think that's one of the big things. You've built up a community, haven't you? A support network, and it it doesn't have to be labelled as like, oh, this is, for mental health. You're doing that by just building the community and people helping each other. So one of the things that I know you noticed that you're doing is people can donate today, obviously for the 24-hour, and that's going to go towards counselling and to the provisions of this as well. Tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah, well, we've got an in-house counsellor, which is my cousin Vinny, CIC, they help.
Amazing.
So Curtis, who runs that, he started to walk with us more or less.
Yeah.
So if any of the lads need to, like I said, deeper rooted problems, want to just to get things off the chest, doesn't have to be like that. There's someone professionally minded who can help them. So that's his business, that's his time. We pay him for. So what we do organically, wherever we get, we started the merchandise, which seems to go well, and we'll have to thank Adapt Outdoors in town. And Cotswolds, who happen to take some of the hats off us to sell, and you can get them on their website. So all that goes, everything we earn off that goes straight back in. There's no Transalpino do all the cost for nothing, do the printing for nothing. So it's like a win-win for us, and all that goes back in to help council, to help lads welfare-wise. If they need anything, if you need a lecky card, if you need £100 to bail yourself out or something, if you need a pair of shoes, it all helps and just goes back in to take a little bit of weight off someone when they're stressing over something.
Amazing. It's so good, as you say, everything that you're raising the money, you're actually seeing where it goes to and the benefits for it as well. So we're just about to start the 24-hour walk. How do you see it going? What's your advice to everyone who's going to embark on it?
Yeah, well, I'll have the water on board, so everyone will be following me within 5 minutes. But they pick a route. Last year, some of them were just going along the front doing 5 miles and coming back, but some of them were going out the way, you know what I mean, doing more than 10 miles. Like we're heading out towards Calderstones around Mossley Hill and coming back that way. So we'll get a route, and the weather's not too bad at the minute. We forecast a bit of rain later on, but all week it's been okay. So when the lads get out and start talking and having a little walk, you'll see the benefits of it.
Okay, so we are currently just under 5 miles into the Florrie's 24-hour walk. Conleth, how have you found it?
Well, you're a bit heavy on my back, Dean, are you carrying holiday weight or something like that? But it's been fantastic. Great bunch of lads, all just talking about past, present, future, things, I guess, whatever. And we've had some inspirational chats with some of the lads here, just talking about what their past's been like and how they went, no, I need to do something. And it reminds me of family members and things, I guess, whatever. Just thinking it's been absolutely beautiful.
It has. It's been very funny. We've got some pure characters on this walk who are hilarious. And we'll interview some in a minute. Okay, so we're with Alan, James and John, and we are near the Florrie now where we started, so we're about 3.5 hours into the first leg of the walk. So first up, your name?
James.
So James, why is it that you come to the men's walking group?
Well, it all started by where the mouth. My son put me onto it originally, and he knew Tony from a long time back. And one of the great points that I'd like to mention is that I have a brother who suffers from dementia, and he was welcomed with open hands to the group. And I know for a fact he misses it now. He hasn't been coming for about 8-9 weeks, and we always hoped that he'd get back. And we have as a group gone over to visit him in the home and things like that. So it's a tremendous club, and you can't praise the club itself enough. The only criticism I've got of it, and it's as I always say, it's in the south ends and it should be in the north ends. That's an ideal situation.
We'll bring that political debate in a bit later on. And your name?
John.
So John, why is it that you come to the men's walking group?
Well,
what do you get out of it yourself?
Yeah, I get a lot out of it actually. It's good. I enjoy walking, and the thing was when COVID was on, we couldn't do any walking, and after COVID was sort of lifted, I think like most people, I didn't want to go out. And then my daughter came to us one day and she said, Dad, she said, you need to do something seriously, like get out and start walking again. I used to do a lot of walking, and she said, you seriously need to do it. And she said, here, I've got a place, the Florrie. She said, I brought it up on my phone. So that's what happened. And then after that, I said, well, I'll go. But to make sure I went, my son, who works on the rig, Riggs, like, so he's not always here. But when they first started the walking, I went along. He came along. I said, "You don't have to come along, you know." He said, "I've been told by my daughter, you go with him to make sure he gets there." I said, "I was going anyway," and I've been there ever since. You know, so it's been about 2 years or so now. I think it's been walking, and it's good.
Amazing. How do you feel when you finish the walk as well? Do you find your moods better?
Tired.
But that's good, and it helps you sleep as well.
Yeah.
And it's Alan?
Yeah,
Alan.
Yeah.
So Alan, again, so you've been here from the start. So what types of things do you get out of coming to the group?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I joined this boys club when it was in 1954.
Wow.
But James told me about the walks. I bumped into James and he told me about the walks. Yeah. So I came back down here, and the Florrie's been in my blood all my life. My dad came here, my two uncles came here. I lived 100 yards away from the front door. So to me, the Florrie was everything. It gave me everything in life. Wow. With all the sports, all the comradeship with my mates, friends, and everything who were made over the years, who we kept all our lives. Wow. And that, sadly, a lot of them have gone now. Yeah. But we all came in here as young kids, and pioneers, juniors, seniors, old boys. Wow. And then, but to come back down to Florrie's been a blessing to me.
So a Florrie lifer, I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? You know what I mean? Someone that's been here from the start, and yourselves as well. It's great. So we're not too far now. I think we've just gone close to the 9 mile mark, so we're nearly there. So we'll pick up with a few lads there. But thanks so much, lads. Cheers. So we massively enjoyed our walk, me, Ian and Conleth, with the lads of the men's walking group at the Florrie. We had a good laugh. We got to find out a lot of the lads' histories in terms of when they first started going to the Florrie, what it means to them, why they go every week, the support network they've built. It's just such an inspirational thing. So we want to thank Tony for inviting us down and being a big part of their event. The event finished. It was a great success. It's finished this morning. The lads completed the full 24-hour walk in their relay form. Some amazing lads who are walking all the way through the depths of the night all around Liverpool. So well done. For anyone who wants to get involved and they'd like to donate, they do have a GoFundMe. If you can find them on the X or the Twitter, it's at the Florrie, and you'll see there that there's a GoFundMe for the Florrie's 24-hour walk. Give them a follow as well. The lads of the walking group are on Twitter as well, so make sure that you give them a follow. It's at Walk Florrie. But it was such an amazing thing, and we're really looking forward to doing it again next year.
If you or anybody else you know is struggling with their mental health, visit hubofhope.co.uk or download the app today and find local and national mental health support.
Please make sure that you follow us on Twitter. It's at The Man Hug. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next month.